Good morning, everyone. So let's start with today's analysis. Today is 30th of May 2026, and we'll start with the first analysis. Uh, the last session of May 2026, because tomorrow is Sunday. Tomorrow is 31st of May. So we'll meet you on 1st of June 2026. Right. So, there are very important news items that we have to cover in today's analysis. So, let's start with our discussion now. So, the first observation is being made by the Supreme Court of India in the latest NEET-UG examination paper leak case. So, in this particular case, these are all observation, and it has the Supreme Court of India has demanded explanation from the government that why, and also from the Ministry of Human Resource Development, that why you know the recommendations given by the various committees were not implemented properly. So that is one fine observation, and we discussed it 3 days back, that whenever the next hearing is happening, the Supreme Court of India will definitely grill National Testing Agency upon the fact that why it failed to implement the recommendations of the K Radhakrishnan committee, which was constituted in 2024 post the entire NEET turmoil. Right. Then also the Supreme Court of India has said a very important thing regarding the aspirants of the NEET-UG entrance examination, that this entire paper leak case has traumatized the students as well as their family members. And also the Supreme Court has said that is this entire paper leak case is basically is a failure of an institution, and which is quite obvious that there is an authority which has been entrusted with the responsibility to conduct a pan India examination in which approximately 2.3 million applicants will appear, और उसमें भी फिर क्या होता है, वो पेपर लीक हो जाता है. This is not a new incident, this is not one of a kind thing, this has been a pattern for a very long period of time, right? So now moving on to the next important point, the National Testing Agency has filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court of India, and in that affidavit, the National Testing Agency has affirmed the same thing, which was said by the Ministry of Education or the Minister of Education, that from next year onwards, from next academic year onwards, NEET UG entrance examination will take place in pen paper based mode. And at the end of the day, students, we have to understand that National Testing Agency was created in 2017, and the primary objective of NTA was to conduct computer based test, right? नीट अभी तक कैसे होता था, पेन पेपर मोड में होता था, और अब नीट भी कंप्यूटर बेस्ड टेस्ट मोड में होगा, सीबीटी मोड में होगा from the next year onwards. Now moving on to the next important question, the most important aspect is about the NEET UG entrance examination is the transportation of question paper. Now a lot of loopholes are there when these question papers are transferred from the printing press to their different destination. So now in this particular context also, NTA and the Ministry of Education has ensured the Supreme Court of India that the paper would be escorted by the Central Armed Police Forces from printing press to nodal hubs, after which the Indian Post would then transport the paper to district custodians, and the district police would take them to examination center. So this is going to be an entire process, a four-step process. First, CAPF, Central Armed Police Forces, will take these papers from the printing press, and from there it will be transported to the nodal hubs. From nodal hubs, it will be taken by Indian Post to their various district offices, and from district offices it would be taken to various centers under the custody of the state police, right? So this is something which we have to understand, and there must be some standard operating procedure when we talk about such a sensitive examination in which the future of 2.3 million applicants is involved, right? So now with this we might expect that the entire conundrum related to the NEET UG entrance examination has comes to an end. So if you have any question, and the re-NEET will take place on 21st of June 2026, which is also International Yoga Day. So if you have any question from starting till this particular point, you may ask your question. Otherwise, we'll move to the next topic. Any question from this topic? Any question whatsoever? There are few things which you should remember, that NTA. These are basic facts that NTA was created in 2017. It was registered under Indian Societies Registration Act 2017. It's an autonomous body. Current Director General Abhishek Singh. Right. Then it is a society, and the main objective of the society is to conduct computer based test. Right. So this is, and also in 2024, now this is also important, a committee under the chairmanship of K. Radha Krishnan was constituted. And who was K. Radha Krishnan? Who is K. Radha Krishnan? Former ISRO chairman. Under his guidance or under his able leadership, this committee was constituted, and and it was this committee was constituted to suggest institutional reforms, to suggest institutional reforms in NTA. It was constituted in June 2024, June 2024, and it submitted its report in December 2024. Right. So this is just a brief of this entire topic. These are the facts which are extremely relevant, which you should know at any point of time. These are the facts which should be on your fingertips. So you may write it down, or if you want to take a screenshot, you can do the same. Otherwise, we'll move to the next topic. Okay, okay, moving on. Or just for like 10 more seconds, and then we'll move to the next point. Right. So finally, there is a weather prediction or the monsoon forecast from the Indian Meteorological Department. So Indian Meteorological Department has lowered down its forecast for southwest monsoon to 90% of the long period average, down from 92% it had projected in April, and acknowledged that the monsoon was unlikely to reach Kerala within the 4-day window of its predicted date of May 2026. Now, IMD is 150-year-old organization in India, and it is the main organization which predicts or which forecasts the weather in India. And the current director general of this organization is Mr. Mrityunjay Mohapatra. This organization is based in Delhi, and it also has 6 regional headquarters. जो भी वेदर फोरकास्ट होता है, मानसून फोरकास्ट होता है, एल नीनो अल नीना का इफेक्ट क्या होगा इंडिया पे, दीज ऑल थिंग्स आर प्रिडिक्टेड बाय इंडियन मीटरोलॉजिकल डिपार्टमेंट. एंड फाइनली इट हैज सेड कि जो साउथ वेस्ट मानसून है वो थोड़ा सा 4-5 दिन उसमें डिले होगा, एंड साउथ वेस्ट मानसून विल अराइव इन केरला इन द फर्स्ट वीक ऑफ जून. तो उत्तर प्रदेश दिल्ली में आप एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं कि 25th 26th ऑफ जून तक मानसून आएगा. एंड दिस ईयर द रेन इज it is expected that there will be the below average rainfall. Now moving on to the next point. Reciting Vande Mataram in full not mandatory, says Kerala's newly elected Chief Minister of Kerala, Mr. V.D. Satishan. Now, students, anyone who is appearing for CLAT 2027, for you, this entire topic related to Vande Mataram is very important. And why I'm saying this? Because a lot of development has taken place around the this particular topic, 150 years of Vande Mataram, right? So, just to give you a brief of this, so finally, in the month of, or in the last week of January 2026, the Ministry of Home Affairs issued uh, certain guidelines that now it is mandatory to sing all 6 stanzas of Vande Mataram. And after after a few months in the earlier this month, this Ministry of Home Affairs has also amended National Honors Act. अब अगर कोई इंसान इंडिया में वंदे मातरम नहीं गाता है या गाने के टाइम पे किसी तरीके का ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन क्रिएट करता है, इट इज अ पीनल ऑफेंस, right? So this is something which we have to understand, that this year last year we also celebrated 150 years of Vande Mataram, and subsequently on January 26 when we were celebrating 77th Republic Day. Theme of 77th Republic Day parade was also 150 years of Vande Mataram. So there is a huge or a large chunk of information related to 150 years of Vande Mataram which might be relevant for your examination. Or 150 years of Vande Mataram is one such topic which can provide you a lot of information, static information, जो स्टैटिक जीके के टॉपिक के रूप में आपसे पूछे जा सकते हैं. इट इज क्वाइट पॉसिबल एज वेल. नाउ स्टूडेंट्स, लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड दिस एंटायर टॉपिक. So finally, the Chief Minister of Kerala, Mr. V.D. Satishan, has said it is not binding to sing full Vande Mataram, जो पूरे के पूरे 6 स्टैंजाज हैं. अब वंदे मातरम का there is a very short journey of Vande Mataram which you should know. A very short journey of Vande Mataram. Now, when we talk about Vande Mataram, students, who was the author of this our national song? Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. For the first time, it was it was composed in 1875, and it was composed as a poem. Now, the next important development, publication. Publication happened in 1882. The next important point, for the first time, it was sung by Rabindra Nath Tagore in 1896 during annual session of Indian National Congress. Right. Then finally, the next important development with reference to Vande Mataram took place in 1937 when Congress approved first 2 stanzas as national song. Now, anyone, why did the Congress only approve the first 2 stanzas of Vande Mataram as national song? Anyone? You may write down these points. So now moving on to the next point, because the entire debate took place between Congress and Muslim League. So Muslim League was making a point during the discussion that you cannot compel somebody to glorify the gods and goddesses of other religion, because in the last 2 or 3 stanzas of Vande Mataram there has been a reference of Hindu gods and goddesses. So because of this particular region, the Congress said the only first 2 stanzas would be made compulsory to be sung as national song. Right. So in 1937 this particular development took place, and finally after independence on 24th January 1950, it was formally adopted as national song of India. Now students, with reference to Vande Mataram, there is a thing that we have to understand, that there is a concept of fundamental duties in our constitution. There is a concept of fundamental duties in our constitution. So to avoid religious polarization and ensure all communities felt represented, right? Absolutely correct, right? So basically, what I was saying, finally, so the thing is that the concept of fundamental duties was not there in the Constitution of India. It was inserted through an amendment So the first fundamental duty is to respect national song and national national flag, national anthem and national flag. Fundamental duties did not or do not fundamental duties do not talk about singing or respecting of national song, right? So now, but again, the Indian government has given a lot of importance to singing of all six stanzas. So can anyone tell me that what is the time duration, what is the time duration for singing of full six stanzas of national song? Anyone who would like to answer the question? What is the time duration for singing all six stanzas of national song? Anyone who would like to answer the question? All six stanzas of a national song must be sung in 190 190 seconds, 3 minutes and 10 seconds, right? So this is entirely this is a short journey of Vande Mataram, and if they ever ask a question from this particular topic, and also this year theme of Republic Day parade was 150 years of Vande Mataram. So this is a short journey of Vande Mataram, which you should remember at any given point of time. These are the facts, and if they ask a question from this particular topic, you may expect that minimum 3 to 4 questions would be from this particular. 52 seconds is for national anthem, 3 minutes and 10 seconds is for national song, right? So this much of information is more than sufficient when we talk about the national song. And finally, the Chief Minister of Kerala, the newly elected Chief Minister of Kerala, Mr. V.D. Satishan, has said that it is not mandatory to sing all six stanzas of national song, because there is no law, so which is which is compelling the individuals to sing all six stanzas of national song, right? So this was the logic, that there is no specific piece of legislation which compels the citizen of our country to sing all six stanzas of national song. Now, moving on to the next important information that we have to discuss. So, it was quite expected that the Karnataka Chief Minister, the current Karnataka Chief Minister, Mr. Siddharamaiah, has finally resigned from his post, and Mr. D.K. Shivakumar is expected to become the next Chief Minister of Karnataka. And there was some internal arrangement under which it was quite anticipated or quite expected, or it was pre-decided that for first 2.5 years, Mr. Siddharamaiah will act as the Chief Minister of Karnataka, and for the next 2.5 years, Mr. D.K. Shivakumar will be holding the office of the Chief Minister of Karnataka. So the same thing is happening, and in the Congress, Indian National Congress also uh, offered K. Siddharamaiah to become a member of Parliament through Rajya Sabha, but he denied. He said he will serve the interest of people of he will serve the interest of people of Karnataka, right? Now, moving on to the next important topic which we have to discuss, students, and it is about, so there is a very popular thing amongst the constitutional courts, and which are the two constitutional courts? So there are two constitutional courts in India. और ये constitutional courts कौन कौन से होते हैं? Supreme Court and High Court. तो आप लोगों ने कई बार देखा होगा, देर इज अ वेरी पॉपुलर प्रैक्टिस कि किसी भी केस पर हियरिंग चल रही होती है, and after the hearing is concluded, these constitutional courts reserve the judgment, right? जैसे अभी सबरीमला रिव्यू पिटिशन में हियरिंग चल रही थी. So what happened? That the entire hearing is concluded now, but the Supreme Court of India has reserved the judgment. So when it comes to this particular when the entire case comes to this particular point where the judgment is reserved by the constitutional courts, so finally the Supreme Court of India has pronounced the very important judgments for the High Court. Now the beauty of this particular judgment is that it is only applicable to the High Courts. The Supreme Court has the Supreme Court has excluded itself from this particular judgment. It has said that once once a judgment is reserved once a judgment is reserved by the High Court. Now, let's take one example. On 28th of February 2026 किसी केस पर hearing चल रही थी and the High Court decided that it will reserve the judgment. So now finally the Supreme Court has said that within 3 months from the date of reserving the judgment, the High Court has to pronounce the judgment. The High Court has to pronounce the judgment. ठीक है, तो this is also important, and there is no specific law on this particular point that if a particular judgment is reserved, then in how many days the judgment should be pronounced by the high courts. There was a convention that they used to pronounce the judgment within 2 to 6 months, but finally the Supreme Court of India has said there is a binding guideline from the Supreme Court that the High Court has to pronounce the judgment within 3 months from the date of reserving the judgment, right? So this is also important, and it was decided by Justice Suryakant. It was decided by Justice Suryakant, a bench headed by Justice Suryakant, right? Now moving on to the next important point which we should discuss. Now, Sergio Gore, the American ambassador to India, has said that America may sign, India and America may finalize a trade deal in the upcoming, weeks or months, and this is a good sign for both the countries because our bilateral trade with United States of America is more than $100 billion. So America is a very important trading partner for India, and in last 1 year, a lot of instability has been there because of the imposition of unilateral tariffs by the United States of America. And after these tariffs are imposed, India started to negotiate a trade deal with the United States of America, and there is an interim trade deal on the table, but there is a lot of discussion going around that particular deal. Now the decision, or the entire observation or the decision has to be taken by the decision has to be taken by the United States of America, because India has said what it wants. India has decided what it expects from the trade deal, what are the expectations of India, and the entire issue was basically around the agriculture sector. India does not want United States of America to penetrate into the agriculture sector of the Indian economy, right? So because of that particular reason, or because of this particular issue, this entire uh, thing is happening now. Vice Admiral Kocher takes charge as the Vice Chief of Navy. So Vice Admiral Ajay Kocher has finally taken charge as the as the 48th Vice Chief of the Naval Staff. So this is also a this appointment might be relevant for examinations like MHCET, SLAT, that who has taken charge as the 48th Vice Chief of the Naval Staff. Then your answer would be Vice Admiral Ajay Kocher has been appointed, or he has taken charge as the Vice Admiral or Vice Chief of Indian Navy. Now, this is a very important development which has taken place with the context of, or with the cases related to the survivors of human trafficking. So finally, the Supreme Court of India has issued a comprehensive guideline for the government and all the competent and able authorities to protect young women from trafficking for commercial sex exploitation. So these guidelines of the Honorable Supreme Court of India are related to the survivors of human trafficking, those women who were sold for trafficking and for commercial sexual exploitation, right? कि किसी को कहीं से किडनैप करके उसको prostitution में धकेल दिया गया, किसी ऐसे जगह पर उसको भेज दिया गया जहां से उसको रिट्रीव करना इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट. सो फाइनली द सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया हैज इशूड दीज गाइडलाइन, comprehensive guidelines for the government of India and all the competent authorities which are involved in the restoration of that mental health of that survivor. A bench headed by a bench of justices J.B. Pardiwala and R. Mahadevan said the judgment in the case pending for over 22 years in the apex court was close to our hearts. The court gave detailed guidelines on establishing a uniform victim protection protocol for survivors of commercial sexual exploitation. The court said trafficking was an affront uh, to constitutional dignity. We have tried to do our best, Justice Pardiwala said. The short pronouncement in the courtroom saw Justice Mahadevan appreciate the long representation of senior advocate Aparna Bhatt in the matter. History will long remember your efforts. So basically, finally, the Supreme Court of India has appreciated the advocate as well who was fighting for the survivors of the human trafficking. Right. So now moving on to the next point, moving on to the next important point related to, or which we would be discussing in today's analysis. So this is basically another, article authored by a four-time member of parliament from Indian National Congress, Mr. Shashi Tharoor. A lot of uh, difficult or words have been used which are very difficult for us to understand. So let's start with our discussion. So international law optional for powerful states. Voltaire's famous quip about Holy Roman Empire that was neither. So basically, the introduction of this article has started with something which has a historical reference. But again, the title of this article is very important: International Law Optional for Powerful States. So we know this when it comes to violation international laws. These powerful states like United States of America, China, Russia, Israel, they don't believe in international law. Basically, they use international law to reap their own interest. They never follow the international law, established law. Look, United States of America in last 1 year has violated international laws so many times. Imposition of unilateral tariffs was basically the violation of the laws or the guidelines issued by World Trade Organization. Then attacking Iran on 28th of February was violation of the UN Charter. Then also Iran controlling or shutting down the Strait of Hormuz is basically the violation of United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. So for past 1 year, there have been multiple instances or examples where international law has been violated by these powerful states, and there are no substantial sanctions or punitive action against these countries. Right? Because see, it is a common phenomenon of the society that if you are powerful, there are very less chances that you have to face any kind of consequence or there will be any repercussion of your actions, right? So the chances are very less, right? Now finally, over the last century and a half, humanity painstakingly constructed an edifice of norms, treaties and institutions meant to restrain the world worst impulses of states, from the Hague Convention to the Geneva Convention, from the UN Convention and from UN clause, from human rights covenants to arms control regimes. The international community sought to replace the anarchy of the past with a rule-based order. So why these international laws were created? We are not living in a time period of like 4500 BC, right? We are living in 21st century, and one of the most important or essential principle of the 21st century is, students, a society, a law based society where everyone has to follow a similar law. Let's talk about our domestic laws. Indian Penal Code was there, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita is there. So the principles or the provisions of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita are applicable to each and everyone without any kind of discrimination. But when it comes to international laws, the powerful, the rich countries, they have more dominance, and it is against against the established principle of a law based society. So these covenants, these treaties, these international agreements are in place to establish a law based society. अभी ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं धनुष बाण लेकर के निकला और मुझे किसी का मन किया मैंने मार दिया और मैं सड़क पे ऐसे ही फ्रीली घूम रहा हूं. I will be prosecuted under Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So if domestic laws can be implemented in such an effective manner, why international laws can't be implemented in such an effective manner? Because they don't have any punitive repercussions of the same. Right now, across continents and conflict, states have violated foundational principles with impunity, eroding the credibility of the very system meant to protect global peace and stability. So basically, the author of this article, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, is trying to make a point here that these laws and these arrangements were created to establish a law-based society. But again, these powerful countries have exploited the system, the very system which was created to establish the world peace. Now, students, the next point, or the point which we should understand, the latest example is Article 2, Clause 4. Article 2 clause 4 of the UN Charter. Now anyone who would like to tell me what is Article 2 clause 4 of the UN Charter? What is Article 2 clause 4 of the UN Charter? So Article 2 clause 4 of the UN Charter is one of the most fundamental principle which must be followed in 21st century. Right? And what is Article 2 clause 4? That no member state should use or threaten should use or threaten to use force against any other country without taking a prior approval of United Nations Security Council. Now, students, let's understand this that when on 28th of February 2026, United States of America and Israel decided to, attack Iran, they never took the permission of United Nations Security Council. और यूनाइटेड नेशन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल का मेंबर परमानेंट मेंबर यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका. सो इफ अ परमानेंट मेंबर हैज or if a permanent member is attacking the other country which should take or which should follow the principles of Article 2 clause 4, then we cannot say anything, right? Because Article 2 clause 4 of the UN Charter specifically prohibits the use of or use of force against the integrity or territorial sovereignty of any other country. And in response to this particular attack by the United States of America and Israel, Iran exercised the powers or the provision of Article 51 of the UN Charter. And what is the provision of Article 51 of the UN Charter? The provision talks about right to self-defense. Article 51 of the UN Charter talks about right to self-defense, right? So this is something which we should understand, that these international laws must be followed. Now in the last 1 year, you will not exactly in last 1 year, but post COVID, the world has witnessed some drastic changes. In February 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, no country went to United Nations to stop that war immediately. Russia is also a permanent member of United Nations Security Council. Then the next big war of this decade was attacking, or the attack on Iran by United States of America and Israel, which involved the entire Middle East, or which dragged the entire Middle East into the conflict, right? So I mean, these and entire idea of United Nations or United Nations was created to protect these kind, or to to play a very important role in these kinds of war. यूनाइटेड नेशन सिर्फ इसलिए क्रिएट नहीं किया गया था कि भाई हम आपके मेंबर हैं, एक साल में हम एक बार मिलेंगे, विल हैव टी कॉफी and we'll go back to our respective countries. No, United Nations was created to prevent these kind of international conflicts, and United Nations have failed miserably to to prevent these kind of conflicts. And that's why during the last annual session of United Nations, Mr. Trump said it absolutely clear that United Nations have failed miserably. United Nations have failed to stop a single conflict that is happening on this planet. And it is absolutely true, because no country is willing to follow the international law. And it is not this is not good that only the weaker countries or the countries which are weak, they should follow the international law. जब तक strong countries international law को follow नहीं करेंगे, weak countries के international law follow करने से कुछ भी नहीं होगा. राइट, कंबोडिया, अर्मेनिया, फिलीपींस, वियतनाम, मलेशिया, बहुत सारे ऐसे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुए. और द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट इज इन 2014 रशिया अनेक्स्ड क्रीमिया. violating a lot of international law, and there is a humanitarian crisis in Syria, Sudan, right? You must have read about the humanitarian crisis in the African continent, जहाँ पर कितने सारे rebellious groups हैं जो कितने लोगों को मार देते हैं, and there is no accountability, there is no uh, uh, criticism of these particular actions from the international community, right? So this is something which we should understand. Then, off with their heads, the purge of Republican dissenters. So, and this article is authored by Anil Raman, the retired brigadier and a research fellow in the geopolitics program of Takshila Institution. Foreign observers, including Indians, often question why the Republicans do not question or stymie United States of US President Donald Trump's controversial policies. The answer lies in Indian-style high command politics, where legislators who cross the party boss are routinely denied electoral tickets and sidelined. For decades, the US boasted a system allowing local grassroots voters rather than central party elites to choose candidates. Today, however, the American Republic Party is undergoing a radical transformation that mirrors this hierarchical structure. The transformation was on full display in Kentucky's 4th congressional district, where Mr. Trump has successfully orchestrated the political defeat of one of his own lawmakers, Congressman Thomas Massey, after a brutal $32 million proxy war that became a referendum on loyalty within the Republican Party. So this is something which we should understand, that no, it is entirely about the United States of America, and this article mainly focuses on the system which used to exist कि यूएस में जो कैंडिडेट्स होते हैं उन कैंडिडेट्स को कौन चूज करता है, उन कैंडिडेट्स को वहाँ के लोग ही प्रेसिडेंशियल कैंडिडेट्स के चूज करते हैं, वहाँ के लोग ही प्रेसिडेंशियल कैंडिडेट अपना चूज करते हैं. बट ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम Donald Trump have started to dilute this particular system, started diluting this particular system. And why he is diluting this particular system? So that he can have more control over the actions of the political working groups, right? अपने सारे working style पे, अपनी party पे, he is basically acting like an arrogant boss, the CEO of United States of America. He is not the president of United States of America. I call him chief executive officer of United States of America. US being a company, he is trying to run United States of America as a company, because he is a businessman, he is a capitalist, and he wants to run the entire show the way he likes, right? So this entire article is mainly talking about how Donald Trump is approaching this entire uh, you know uh, thing. India must mandate green cover and reflective materials for its cities. So basically अब इस बार heat wave को लेकर के तो मतलब इतना ज़्यादा discussion हो रहा है, और discussion होना भी चाहिए, because I was reading an article on the same. uh, Heat wave is one of the primary causes of death in India during the summer season. समर सीजन में सबसे बड़ा जो एक सप्लीमेंट्री कॉज होता है डेथ का, विच एग्रीवेट्स द कॉज ऑफ डेथ, इज हीट वेव, right? So the lot of discussion is taking place around this particular thing as well. For real, what for real, Ricky? Now moving on to the next point. So this is these news items are from states. What's your comment for real? किस चीज़ पे चाहिए आपने बोला है कि फॉर रियल? नाउ इन द बिजनेस सेक्शन, as usual, we don't, or this has been become a long established practice, that in the business section you will find nothing relevant. uh, uh, the value of rupees strengthening day by day, and it has come down to 94 rupees 85 paisa after crossing the mark of 95 rupees 50 paisa. Finally it is gaining the momentum again. And state-owned oil marketing companies, OMCs, have been asked to maintain a backup of at least 30 days. 30 day का जो LPG stock है उसका उन्हें एक backup हमेशा maintain करके रखना है. Now the next important point is now international section is important, as is relevant today. So basically the first one is now this is actually important. अभी कल से आज तक आप लोगों ने YouTube वगैरह पे बहुत सारे shorts videos देख लिए होंगे. So there is a company, Blue Origin. SpaceX is a company of Elon Musk, and Blue Origin is a company of Jeff Bezos. So this is a space company. So अभी Jeff Bezos की जो company है Blue Origin, उसका एक rocket था, and it has exploded on the launch pad, right? And it was the 4th flight of New Glenn. So आपको rocket का नाम भी याद रखना है. Company's blue origin. रॉकेट का नाम है न्यू ग्लेन and it exploded at a launch pad in in Cape 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 Canaveral Canaveral या Canaveral आप जो भी इसका pronunciation रखना चाहें. So you should remember the name of this particular rocket which exploded, and it was New Glenn, right? It was a massive explosion. You could see it from one could see it from approximately 70 to 80 kilometers away. This was the quantum of this particular explosion, and it is a setback for basically for Blue Origin. Then US envoys seek more vessels to secure traffic in Strait of Hormuz. The European Union's foreign policy chief Kaza Kallas said on Thursday that securing freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz after the Iran war ends will require more ships. The EU mission in the Red Sea, dubbed dubbed as Pirates, is comprised of three vessels that protect shipping from attacks by Houthi rebels. So basically, EU has asserted upon a very important fact that once this US Israel conflict ends, Strait of Hormuz is open. We need more ships in this particular region to protect the commercial shipping vessels. Trump says he's making a final decision on Iran deal. So as I told you, he is the chief executive officer of United States of America, and he will take the final decision. And the deal is on the deal is on his table, the peace deal on his table. And if this time Donald Trump is not accepting this particular peace deal, then it would become quite obvious that he is one of the most selfish president in the history of United States of America. He is not considering the interest of any other country in the world. He is only thinking about the interest of Israel and United States of America. Because let's say, students, what is the inherent interest of United States of America in Iran? Because there were reports that United States of America used to feel a kind of threat from Iran, because they were accusing Iran of developing a nuclear weapon. But International Atomic Energy Agency has also confirmed that they were not developing a nuclear weapon. So if they were not developing a nuclear weapon, then how could Iran be a threat for United States of America? So there was no reasoning, there was no concrete reason why United States of America attacked Iran, but finally it has been done. Now, again, another important feather in the cap of Mr. Trump. Finally, the U.S. Secretary of Treasury, uh, Scott Bessent, has proposed कि एक $250 का एक नोट आना चाहिए, $250 का एक नोट आना चाहिए, बिल आना चाहिए, और उस $250 के बिल पर किसका फोटो होगा? डोनाल्ड ट्रंप का. So basically, this year a lot of things are happening. United States of America is also celebrating 250 years of its independence. और उस पे एक कॉइन लॉन्च होगा जिस पे डोनाल्ड ट्रंप का चेहरा बना होगा, फेस होगा. The other important point is that US Secretary of Treasury, Mr. Uh, Scott Bessent, has proposed a bill, has proposed that there should be a note of $250 featuring the face of the 47th president of United States of America. Now, this is something which is very sad. Israel and Russia added to UN blacklist for sexual violence in the conflict zones. So there have been multiple videos which are suggesting that the Israeli defense forces are involved in the sexual exploitation of people living in the Gaza Strip, right? And this is not good. Already these, I mean, this is not good in any situation or circumstances that they are in a conflict zone, right? You are attacking their country, you are attacking their territory, and despite and all and after doing all these things, you are also sexually exploiting the population which is residing in a conflict zone. And because of this, United Nations have blacklisted Israel and Russia for 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 sexual violence in the conflict zone. Now, an annual United Nations report documenting sexual violence in conflicts worldwide has included Israeli forces for the first time since the review began more than 15 years ago for their treatment of Palestinian detainees. Israel denies the accusation. I mean, they are denying the accusation, but there are a lot of videos on the YouTube where you can see that the Israeli Defense Forces persons are involved in the sexual assault or sexual exploitation of the people living in the Palestine region. The 35-page report shared by the Israel mission, Israeli mission to the United UN late Thursday ahead of its expected release on Friday. Blacklist 77 government and non-governmental parties in a dozen countries suspected of committing of being responsible for sexual violence in conflicts around the world. It says the number of cases rose sharply in 2025 from 2024. Russian armed and security forces were also blacklisted for the first time this year for sexual violence against prisoners of war and civilians detained during the war in Ukraine. The list of 2025 includes Israeli armed and security forces as well as Hamas militants who were previously blacklisted after their attack in Israel on October 7, 2023, which has sparked the war in Gaza. Both Israel and Russia were warned in last year's report by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres that they could be put on the list. So basically, this is the relevance of the article which we're discussing in the editorial section. International laws are there, but these international laws are not for the powerful countries like Russia and Israel. Despite the warning from the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, I guess Russia and Israel have failed to understand that they should not commit these kind of things. Then Abhi Epstein, so she's Pam Bondi is the former U.S. Attorney General, and the entire administration was basically protecting Donald Trump from these accusations made against him in the Epstein Island case, and his name has also been there. His name is there in the Epstein file, but there is no concrete accountability, and there is no uh, concrete action against Mr. Donald Trump. And a lot of people used to say कि ईरान पे जो अटैक किया है डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने, वो अटैक इसीलिए किया क्योंकि वो नहीं चाहते थे कि एप्स्टीन फाइल के बारे में जो उनका नाम आया उसके बारे में लोगों को बहुत डिटेल में पता चले. एंड शी वाज द यूएस अटॉर्नी जनरल एट दैट टाइम, पैम बॉन्डी. शी वाज फायर्ड बाय Donald Trump on 31st of March. The 31st of March was his last working day in the office. She was fired. Now a lot of questions has been asked to her about Donald Trump and his involvement in the Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, or his relation with Jeffrey Epstein, or whether he used to visit Epstein Island or not, or whether he was also involved in the uh, sexual exploitation of minors, right? And finally, we have the finalist for IPL 2026. It's Gujarat Titans versus Royal Challengers Bangalore on 31st of March, on 31st of May in Ahmedabad, because Gujarat Titans have defeated Rajasthan Royals badly, but this kid, a 15-year-old boy, has broken all the records, hitting maximum number of sixes, the first uncapped player to cross 700 runs in a season, then also the first player to hit more than 500 runs in the power play. So a lot of records this kid has broken, and he has a long or a very bright future in cricket. And in French Open, a lot of unexpected things are happening in the French Open. And then these are the rankings, because today is Saturday. So and basically अभी हम end month के end पे हम क्या करते हैं, सारी rankings को भी देखते हैं. So if you are very interested in sports, you can see all these things. Then yeah. So this is all about today's analysis. This was the last analysis of May 2026. प्लीज़ आप अपना जितना भी मे का नोट्स अभी तक आपने बनाया, प्लीज़ डू रिवाइज इट, एंड अलॉन्ग विद द नोट्स ऑफ मे यू शुड रिवाइज एवरीथिंग फ्रॉम January to May. We'll meet you on Monday at 7:45 in the morning. Till we still have almost 48 hours before we have our next session. So my suggestion to you would be that please revise everything. Revision is the most important. Please don't go behind the number of resources or number of books that you are reading. It's never about the size of the content. It's always about the number of revisions, right? It's never about there's a very famous line that it's never about the size of the dog in the fight. It's always about the size of the fight in the dog. It never matters that how much content you have. It always matters that how much emphasis you are giving on your content. Number of revisions will always decide the outcome. It's never about the quantum of content which will decide the outcome, because at the end of the day, we will do everything which is relevant for CLAT, AILET and other law entrance examination. It is up to you that how much importance you are giving to your career and your college. Because जितने भी लोग CLAT 2027 में appear करने वाले हैं, it's a matter of 6 to 7 months, 6 to 6.5 months. Within 6 to 6.5 months, you can decide कि next year आप इस time पर किस college में होंगे, right? And this is a very important thing, because a good college will actually open a lot of doors for you, and you have to enter the market in 2032. Yes, you are still 6 years away from the market, and then in next 6 years a lot of things will change. So you need a good college to change your entire uh, or to change your future, right? And a good college always matters. The pata nahi kaun bol karke gaya hai cheez that a single sheet of paper will not decide my future. Please remember this always: a single sheet of paper will decide your future, whether it's the grade card of class 12th 10th, or your grade card of your university examination, or if you're a businessman, then that GST certificate, or the loan sanction letter from the bank. So it's always a piece of paper which will decide your future. So don't listen or don't pay heed to these irrelevant things. Stay focused. You are just 6 months away from your examination. That is on 6th of December, so you have time. You still have approximately how many days? 190 days before your examination. So please invest every minute of yours in this examination. Pour your blood and sweat into this examination. This is totally worth it. And on that note, we'll wrap up today's session. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on Monday. Till then, just take a good care of yourself and keep yourself hydrated. Bye.